industry, to that extent, we have been let down. But the truth is that government, has tried as much as they possibly can in the context of available resources, in the context of, creating the enabling environment, to help. But there's still a whole lot more that government should be doing.
The other side of it is your industry doing enough? Because there are many wonder drugs out there. There are many drugs that are brought into the country and, how do I say now, announced as wonder drugs, and Nigerians go for these things. Is your industry working to see how this can be curtailed, or how do you say now?
You're trying to say that, okay, maybe looking at research, trying the pharmaceutical industry in Nigeria, bringing out, some of these innovations that can help improve, the health of Nigerians.
Well, to be honest with you, we concentrate more on manufacturing your regular, what do you call these? Essential medicines, that are for day-to-day diseases, curative, lifestyle, and so on and so forth. We do not concentrate on fancy drugs. I mean, that is a space for some other persons.
But you mentioned Ebola, and we needed something to bail us out. But let's come to the issue of the pharmaceutical risk-reward index. Nigeria is at 30 out of 100 now, lower than the 37.2 earlier. What are the challenges?
Let me piggyback a bit on what my colleague Dr. Yebe was saying. And from your question, every industry develops through a curve. And every stage, certain parameters are required to create success. There would be a time where we would be in a position as an industry to go the full hog of what you call your fancy drugs and all that. And that's research and development he's talking about. We are doing research and development at our own level for essential medicines. But the countries you're referring to where those drugs are coming from have gone much further than us. And that's essentially because of the space they operate with, the environment they operate with. Research has to be encouraged because your reward index is what we're talking about here. If there is no return on investment, if there's no return on effort in the general sense, there's not going to be an impetus to make an investment. And that is why the environment is important to Nigerians, that the right environment must be created for such an industry as critical as pharmaceutical to thrive and develop and move to a level where essential drugs in Nigeria would be produced in Nigeria. There is a national drug policy which came out in 2003 as amended and was revised in 2005 when Professor Lambo was the Minister for Health. That national drug policy has at its center to encourage local drug manufacturing and went on to say in section 13, specifically in page 11, that 60% of drugs made in Nigeria would meet over 70% of local drug need, and the excess will be exported. So there has been an extant government policy articulated to make Nigeria self-sufficient in essential medicines and become a hub for export. But what we're saying is, how has the subsequent government policies and administration upheld that document that is also essentially a government document? That's what we're saying. So government policymakers in their wisdom have articulated this policy. And like I said, 170 million people, there's literally no option.
Which one of these policies would you say is not encouraging your group?
Yeah, let me just take one, which is very much on the front burner as we speak. CET, Common External Tariff. The Common External Tariff, we understand, is part of the agreement Nigeria has entered into. But the way it has played out is that June this year, it was rolled out. And certain categories of pharmaceutical products, finished pharmaceutical products, are being imported at zero duty, zero tariff. Hitherto, they were attracting 20%. Now, those class of products that now attract 20%, the argument is that there is sufficiency, there is enough capacity to make them in Nigeria. And that's why they were attracting 20% to discourage unnecessary importation to the level of dumping. Now, what CET has done is that it has removed that 20%. And they are now coming into Nigeria as from June at 0%. And on the other hand, raw materials for local manufacturing under the same CET is attracting 5%.
What was it before?
5 to 20%.
It was 5% before. It was not removed. Packaging materials from 10, some of them to 20%, like collapsible tube. Machineries still attract, again, 5%. Now, what this aggregates to is that no matter the magic you do, making drug in Nigeria becomes unattractive because nothing will make you to competitively sell whatever you make in Nigeria. And we are bringing this to the notice of Nigerians that government, we don't see this as a deliberate act. No, no, no. We think there is an omission somewhere.
So what would you want the government to do?
We're basically asking that we think that in the process of designing CET, there may have been an oversight, or there may be an misunderstanding in codification. We just want government to return to the status quo in any way that it will not violate CET. For instance, there are two important HS codes, HS code 3003 and HS code 3004. These two band of HS code contains majority of products that are made in Nigeria. We have enough capacity to make them. And they were attracting 20% before. Now we want government to return that 20% through import adjustment tax, which is allowed under CET as well. And if you do that, what you would have done is to keep the status quo.
But have you communicated with the government?
We have. We have.
And what's the response you've got?
Well, the response is that it's work in progress. But our reaction is that this work in progress should receive an accelerated attention because we don't have much time to survive.
Okay. Dr. Abe, there's the National Drug Distribution Guidelines as announced by the Ministry of Health. How does this affect the local manufacturing, and what's your place in the NDDG?
The policy means well. However, there are two major things that were not addressed in that policy, which is the reach to the market, the chain, the distribution chain to the market. What they have done, right, is to take the review from top down, whereas the review should be from bottom up, right? Because the reach to the common man and to consumers is actually at that level, right? The pharmacy level and the chemist level, I use that word chemist, right, is okay. We have enough of those. We have over 200,000, chemists all over Nigeria. We have maybe another 10, 15,000, registered pharmacies all over Nigeria. Now, the distribution level, which is the wholesale level, right, is where the conundrum is. And that is what is creating real problems. Now, there is this narrative that there is an open market.
Yes, the open drugs market.
Right, open drugs market that is that should be closed. But that narrative is wrong, and somebody should really address it and change it. Now, this is a market that is responsible for distributing over 300 to 400 billion naira in both imported and locally manufactured drugs. They are responsible for distributing over 500 billion naira in cosmetics, and another 200 or 300 billion naira